A Delta passenger jet crash landing a short time ago in Toronto.
मैं कुछ भविष्यवाणियों को लिख करके रखा हूं जो इस साल देश के लिए भविष्यवाणियां हैं जो परमेश्वर की आत्मा ने मुझे बताया। बीते 2 हफ्ते पहले मैं आपको बताऊं 7 से 14 10 से 14 दिन के बीच के पहले अचानक सुबह मैं सपना देखा था कि एक विमान था जो आकर के जमीन पर गिरा और ब्लास्ट हो गया, खत्म हो गया। बट बाय मिस्टेक मैं उसको भविष्यवाणी के रूप में ऑनलाइन में आकर के नहीं दे पाया और जैसे ही देखा हूं।
A Delta passenger jet crash landing a short time ago in Toronto. Here is the stunning image of how it came to a stop. You see the plane upside down on the runway at Toronto Pearson International Airport. One wing gone and no tail left. Delta Flight 4819, carrying 76 passengers and 4 crew members, was coming in for a landing from Minneapolis when the accident occurred. Emergency crews were on the scene in those frigid conditions. Deep, dark marks visible along one of the engines of the plane. The airport says all on board accounted for, and there were thankfully no fatalities. But several people are hurt, including some in critical condition. Tom Costello joins us live with some new reporting. Tom, good evening.
Yeah, Tom, this happened at 2:45 p.m. in Toronto. The response from firefighters, immediate. The airport was closed for several hours, just opening now. But amazingly, everybody got out of this plane alive. On the runway in Toronto, a terrifying end for Delta Flight 4819.
Our plane crashed. It's upside down.
Lying upside down on the runway, an Endeavour Air regional jet had just arrived from Minneapolis in gusty winds when something went terribly wrong.
This airplane just crashed at 23.
As thick black smoke poured from the plane, firefighters smothered the scene in foam. The right wing ripped off, the fuselage bearing what appeared to be skid or soot marks.
Everything, drop it!
All 80 people on board managed to escape through the emergency exits.
I was walking to this fence and I could see a CRJ that is possibly crashed on the airport. The airplane is flipped.
18 people injured and transported to area hospitals, including 2 airlifted to trauma centers. 1 child rushed to Children's Hospital in Toronto.
I've seen a few people on stretchers that we have transported. I have seen 1 person with a sling on their arm, and I've seen others that are just potentially exposure type injuries because it is very cold here.
The plane, a Bombardier CRJ 900 regional jet made in Canada, is a workhorse for short-haul flights worldwide. At the time of the crash, it was 18 degrees with 20 to 30 mile-per-hour winds and strong crosswinds. The question for investigators, how and why did the plane lose at least one, maybe both wings on landing, then flip over, causing jet fuel to spill onto the runway?
I think it's possible the wing may have touched the runway due to a gust, and if that's the case, then the rest of this makes sense. But the recorders are going to show that.
In a statement, Delta says our primary focus is taking care of those impacted. The flight was carrying a total of 80 people, 76 passengers, and 4 crew. The investigation now will be led by the Canadian Transportation Safety Board, with both the U.S. FAA and NTSB assisting.
Tom, let's talk about those conditions now. The airport was dealing both with heavy snow and, as you mentioned, winds gusting up to 38 miles per hour.
Yeah, it was frigid. The tower reporting winds from the west at 28 miles per hour, gusting to 38 at the time of the crash. And as we said, 18 degrees and a lot of snow on the ground there, Tom.
And, Tom, we also have that incredible video, right? Talk to us about the pilot and the crew getting so many out safely.
Yeah, the bottom line here, in an emergency, the orders from the flight deck and from the flight attendants are to get out as fast as you can. And, of course, you've got a lot of people who are buckled in, and they tell them, don't grab your bag, don't grab your suitcase, don't grab your coat, get out, get out, get out. That's the priority for the flight attendants, and then help others get out as well.
Tom Costello leading us off tonight. Tom, we thank you for that. For more on this breaking story, we're joined tonight by Jeff Guzzetti, an NBC News aviation analyst and a former FAA and NTSB investigator. So, Jeff, looking at these images of the plane, completely upside down, those markings along one of the engines, no tail, a missing wing, what does all of that tell you?
Well, it tells me that something went awry during landing. And just as Captain Cox had indicated earlier, typically whenever an airplane ends up upside down like this, it drags a wing. And the stiff winds were coming from the right crosswind, which means you would counter with lowering your right wing, and perhaps it struck something and caused the airplane to cartwheel. But, you know, commercial airline events like this should not occur during landing.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.